All right, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Yesterday we really talked about, um, getting better at being okay when life isn't. And, this is what we're trying to do to bounce back and, continue that theme. And, it's not easy. There's going to be times where things just get in your way or somebody says something that just, kind of sticks with you and it bothers you. But how do you get through that? We talked about being patient and being able to execute with patience and get something done with patience when not everything is going right or when you want to just make it happen as fast as you can. You gotta work through it, be patient, and do your very best. The other thing was the fact that winning is fun, doing well at things is fun. You get a lot more enjoyment out of it. Again, when things don't go your way, though, how do you react to that? And how do you learn from it? Oftentimes we can learn a lot from the times that we lose. I think back very specific time in the last school year, actually, I guess it was all the way back in 2019. Seems like a long time ago now, but it was the last volleyball season I was able to coach, and we had a tough time at our first tournament of the year, and there were a couple issues we were having playing defense, and same things just kept happening over and over. And girls were getting frustrated, parents were disappointed that we were losing, and I was trying to do what I could to fix it within the game, but I knew once we had some time to practice that once we fixed those couple flaws that we hadn't really worked on up until that point, that we were going to be okay the rest of the season. And, we came out of that. Unfortunately, we had another game before we were able to have practice, and, we had some of the same issues again. And again, was it fun to have lost those matches? No. But if we hadn't lost those matches and if we had gone in and played against easier teams, we would not have been able to find these holes that we had. And, we came back into practice that Tuesday and we started immediately fixing those things. And in the next matches we had, those weren't issues anymore. And the entire rest of the season, we didn't lose a match. And it's not that simple, and I'm not saying that it was that simple for me to fix it or for those girls to just all of a sudden flip a switch and have it work. But what I'm saying is that you can learn from those times where you don't win or you don't do your best. You can learn from that assignment that you struggle on. But again, it's more fun when you start winning and when you start getting good grades and when you start, being more successful at whatever it is that you're working on. And so that is just a really important part. So the thing we're going to talk about today is grit. And I'm reading a book right now called Grit. It's written by a psychologist, Angela Duckworth. And she actually has kind of a cool backstory because she's not just a typical person who went to school to become a psychologist, went through, got her degree, and started studying. She actually was a teacher. She had some different jobs and some different things that she did before she decided to become a psychologist and start studying some of these things. And I think it just kind of shows that, even for her, she had some grit leading up to that maybe she didn't know about. Again, trying to find what was best for her, what she enjoyed most, and how she could, form a life that she was happy with. But if we take a look a little bit at the start of this, and I'll keep referencing this book as I continue to get further into it, but she came up with this grit scale after going to the Army Academy and looking at how these cadets made it through kind of the first really strenuous parts of school. They had kind of 2 months of what they call beast months, and it's just these really hard months where you're up at 5:30, you don't go to bed till 10 o'clock, and you just have constant stuff that's going on, constant physical exercise, constant classes. And these are students who are learning to become officers, and they're already pared down from all these applicants to people who had scored best on things, who had highest grades in school. In order to get into that military academy, you have to have gotten a recommendation from a congressperson or a sitting senator or the vice president or the president of the United States. And so there's a lot of steps you have to go through to get there. But then there's still this big dropout rate during this time. And so she was trying to figure out, well, why if all these other factors, these are obviously very talented, very smart, very driven young men and women, why are there still so many people dropping out? And so as she went through that, she was finding that there's obviously some other intangible thing that all these people had in common. And so grit is just really about how you approach life and how you approach adversity. So again, it really didn't have anything to do with how talented the cadet was. It had everything to do with their grit. And so, when they didn't get something the first time around, they tried again and again, sometimes coming for extra help during their lunch period, during afternoon electives. These were students that she had who, when she taught an accelerated math class, when they first took an entrance exam, these were not the top of the class kids, but they were the ones who ended up being on top because they continued to come back. They continued to ask questions. They continued to fight for them to do their best. The kids who came in with the highest scores didn't always end up leaving with the best grades. They oftentimes just relied on their talent and thought they didn't have to study. And so it's really interesting to see that, there's not always a direct correlation between talent and success. So, we've talked about growth mindset before is something that's important. That's the idea of, again, if you work hard at something, you can grow at it. And again, we obviously all have certain attributes that may make us a little bit more apt to doing better in certain things. But if you work at it and if you have that grit and you continue to ask questions and you continue to fight for what you want to have the outcome be, then you're going to be successful. And again, this shows up in the most talented of people, where they're dropping out. And that goes for lots of things in military, but it also goes for things in sports. I mean, how many times, if you're somebody who follows sports closely, you can see how many times there have been people who are extremely talented. They went through high school doing really well in sports. They get into a good college, and because college has so many schools and so many teams, the talent it's a little bit watered down compared to something like the NBA. And so you get these players who, again, they can continue to rely on their talent. They don't necessarily have to have this grit and this extra work ethic. And sometimes, too, they don't even really have to be on a team that's winning a lot. They can just be touted because of their size, their physical attributes, and the points they score. And then they get drafted, and they're what we call a bust. They don't do well. And one of the main reasons for that is their grittiness. They get to the NBA now, and now you have this very concentrated pool of talent, or you get to the NFL or Major League Baseball, and all of a sudden you've gone from, millions of people playing high school sports to hundreds of thousands playing, college sports to, a very concentrated amount. If it's the NBA, you're looking at, 400 players or so out of this entire world, really. That there's obviously professional leagues other places, but so you've taken that pool, concentrated it down. You're going to have some extra intangibles besides just being talented. You're not going to be able to just walk in there and do your best. And we look at, even other types of jobs are the same way. If you want to work your way up the ladder and become the boss somewhere, a lot of times that just takes, some extra fight and some extra work to make that happen. It's not just that you're handed something and you get to walk your way up there. So you got to have this grittiness to yourself to fight through things. And that just comes back to getting better at being okay, when life isn't, and when things are thrown at you that just are more difficult than what you had planned on doing. Are you going to take that and work with it and figure out a way through it? Or are you going to just give up, throw your hands up and say, you know what, I'll find something else to do. This isn't working for me. So again, don't just rely on talent. Don't just think you're going to be able to skate through something because you've done well at it in the past. You may have to ask questions. You may have to fight for it, and you might have to find some grittiness in order to get through. And while we're still doing some of this distance learning, we're trying to, and people are having lockdowns and are away from things. You're going to have to be able to find a way to get through it. If you're an athlete, you got to find a way to continue to improve and get stronger and stay prepared for that time when you get to go back. So anyways, try and today think about ways that you can kind of push through things and be gritty and find a way to not give up when things are looking like they might get a little bit tough. So have a great Tuesday, and I look forward to talking with you guys a little bit more tomorrow about some new things on leadership and on this topic of, again, just helping get through while life is throwing us some curveballs and we're having a tough time.